ministers to Washington. In 1957, Dr. King did not get the results that he thought he would get with the March for Ministers because there was not a big crowd there. But you see, Dr. King did not stop. He kept pushing and he kept fighting for justice and equality in America. 8 years later, in 1963, Dr. King gathered for what we call the March on Washington, where about 250-some people joined. They were white, they were black, they were gay, they were straight, they were from America, they were from Europe. They gathered for what we call the March on Washington there in Washington at the Lincoln Memorial. And what we know now as Dr. Martin Luther King iconic I Have a Dream speech. So the more in me telling you guys that story is, it may take 8 years or it may take over a decade to see change in your community. But the key is to never give up and to keep fighting for what you believe is right and what you believe is just. We all have different callings on what we call this journey of life. But I must believe that my grandmother, the late Mary Malone, must have realized the gifts and callings of implanting seeds of the civil rights movement. You see, at the age of 8, my grandmother set me down to share stories of Medgar Evers and him fighting for the right to vote. She shared stories of Dr. King and how my aunt would march with Dr. King at Tougaloo. My grandmother shared stories of Emmett Till and his mother, Mamie Till Mobley, and how she had an open casket funeral to show what happened to her son just miles away from here. You see, I have to believe that those seeds planted in me is the reason why I fight every day for equality and justice for all. And you see, on this journey of justice, many told me here in the state of Mississippi to never speak up on the Confederate flag. But I was reminded of my ancestors who were horned on trees next to the Confederate flag. So I had to speak up and to speak out. You see, many went on to tell me to don't drive miles up to Clarksdale, Mississippi, to shed a light on poverty in the state of Mississippi back in 2013. But I was reminded of Dr. King's courage. And I was also reminded of my own experience of growing up in Southwest Mississippi to a single mother in poverty. Some days I would go home from school and not realize whether or not I would even have food on the table. So I had to keep pushing and keep fighting for what I believe in and what I thought was right in my community. They went on to say, Duvalier, you definitely do not want to organize a We Demand Justice rally for justice for Emmett Till. You definitely do not want to touch that. But I was reminded of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s courage when he stated there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe nor political nor popular, but he must take it because his conscience tells him to do what is right. So as I look across this audience today, I want to challenge you all to do what is right. As I close on this afternoon, I want to remind you all that in order to keep Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream alive, we must first show love for one another. And to remember that we are more alike than we are different. And lastly, I'm reminded of young John Lewis, who I interviewed for the March on Washington. And I said, Congressman Lewis, my generation, what is your charge for us? As I closed out that interview with him. And he said, son, your generation, I charge you that when you see something that is not right, that is not just, to find a way to get in the way and make some necessary noise for change. So I challenge you all here today, as Congressman John Lewis, who marched alongside Dr. King, who spoke there on the March on Washington, was the youngest speaker that day, 16 years old, to remind you all that when you see something that is not right, that is not just, to find a way to get in the way and make some necessary noise for changing your community. Thank you, Delta State University, for the invitation today. And I want to do something really quickly as we close out as a sign of unity here today. I don't know if the Kahoma Community Choir can help me, but I want us to join hands as a sign of unity to show that we are more alike than we are different, and that we are going to take that courage as Dr. King did to speak up against injustice, to lead us in a song of "We Shall Overcome." Thank you again for having me this afternoon. Y'all don't be shy. I know y'all sung it before, right?